I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, that's all right.
Moving on.
Moving on. Let's get into the weird. Welcome to the edge of nowhere. They're playing games at the edges of what we know. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 85 of Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Carr, here sans Moz for the moment. You may have noticed we haven't put out an episode in a few weeks, as we are currently on hiatus for the summer. Just giving ourselves a break after a couple of years of constant production work. And we will be back in the fall with another batch of MLT-style deep dive episodes, so have no fear, good listener. In the meantime, we are going to bring you whatever interviews come our way, which is what brings me here today. I present to you my recent conversation with new friend of the podcast, Violet. It starts with her story of an orb sighting and leads us all the way to a discussion about universal consciousness and the possible nature of our own existence. This one is not to be missed, so hop in, buckle up, and come on along with us on this hiatus interview edition of Monster Lore Tour. All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the garage. Hello, Violet.
Hello.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
We were having quite a discussion at a local pub recently.
Yes.
That led to me pretty much begging you to come on the podcast because you got some stories.
No, it wasn't a beg. You're just like, hey, I want you to come on the show. I was like, yeah, dude, I'll come on the show. No problem.
There you go. Well, I'm glad I held it together better than I thought because I was really excited in the moment.
It was the crochet pants.
Yeah, those really do draw some attention.
Those are cool.
Thank you, Mom. Yeah, I got some new ones too. Very cool.
Good job, Jeremy.
But she's an artist in her own right. But we are here to talk about Stranger Things today. Primarily, you got some orb stories that really drew my attention. I'd like to start there.
Okay.
I would like to lead off with the one outside your window, if you could, that you told me about. Can we start with that story and then go into the other ones?
Definitely. Okay, so I just a little bit of backstory. I am from California, Southern California. I've lived in numerous places, and I had, prior to this experience, I had watched orb shows. Am I allowed to say the name of the show?
Yeah, I think so.
There's no copyright issues.
No.
Ancient Aliens, watched a lot of it during COVID, got into UFO shows. A little bit more backstory. I was raised with this stuff. So I had an aunt who had me doing chakra work and readings and meditation at like 8, 10 years old on the regular. So I had always, but it wasn't until watching the shows, especially the Ancient Alien shows and the Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch show, where I saw these orbs that apparently had been caught on video. And so I started really I guess I was just telling you this in the garage, in a subconscious way, as I was watching these shows, I just kept manifesting. I really want to see one of those. I really want to see one of those. Right. And so, so I moved up here. I've lived in numerous places. I moved up here about 4 years ago.
Up here to Flagstaff.
Right. So, it's like November-ish of 2023. And I'm sitting in one of the rooms in the house that I live in. And this room has a wall of windows. It's the TV room. It looks out to the backyard. And so I was actually on the phone with my mom. And I had even yeah, so I had even like, just really quick, more to the backstory before I get into it. When I was working in the grocery store during COVID, I had met a person in California who had told me that, because we got to talking about ancient aliens, and he had told me that he had seen an orb. He had seen 3 of them in SoCal, and he even brought a picture in to show me of it. And my aunt growing up and being exposed to all this stuff, there was definitely a couple of conversations when I was like 12 or 13 where she was telling me about orbs and aliens and UFOs and alternate dimensions. And so it was always something that was in my mind. It's always something that I've been thinking about, but I had kind of forgotten about it. So 2 years ago, I'm sitting in the room with all the windows, and it's just like the most randomest, like 4 o'clock-ish in the afternoon. I'm talking to my mom on the phone, on my cell phone, and, I've got her on speaker, and she's, rambling to me about her best friend. And, my mom grew up in Phoenix, and, she was born in Chicago, and, we're just having this conversation. And then I'm looking out the window, and it's all of a sudden there's this sphere. There's like this, it's definitely circular. It's an orb. And my mind, the first thing that I thought is, are the streetlights on? Like it's 4 o'clock.
Like it's a reflection in the glass or something.
Is it a reflection in the glass? Is that a drone? And then I was, I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and I'm looking out the window, and it's far enough away where it's, it's not right at the window. There's probably at least 100 feet, maybe 75, 50-ish. But the thing that struck me the most about it was that it was completely still. And so I'm talking to my mom on the phone, and I'm like, Mom, there's an orb outside my window. And so this is what ties into the backstory, is that my mom, being the sister of my aunt, who, in her 40s wanted to go and pursue crystals and spirits and orbs and all UFOs and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. My mom's like, well, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, everything is fine. Like, it's definitely, she's like, what is it doing? And I'm like, it's just floating there. So it was maybe like an interaction or a viewing or a sighting, however you want to call it, for maybe 2 minutes. But that's
actually a pretty long time for something like that.
It was definitely like long enough floating there where I could definitely like put all of my attention of just looking right at it and just trying to see it for what it is. Is that a fireball? Yeah. Is that it's definitely much larger than a drone. It's definitely bigger than a basketball, but the distance of it is looking like, it's just an energy. It's not producing a large aura. It's, it's plasmatic. And so like last night I lit a fire at the house, I was just, burning pine needles, whatever. And like an ember of a fire, when you blow on it, how it just gets that orange where it's just so hot. But, there wasn't a lot of aura coming out of it, and there weren't any flames.
It wasn't lighting up the area around it?
No, because it was like, it was 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I've seen a meteor before. I've seen shooting stars. I've seen drones in the sky. I've seen planes. This was beyond anything. It looked almost exactly what I had seen in the shows.
Yeah, there it is.
That's the thing. Yeah. And I was like, what the So.
And it didn't you didn't see it like come up. It was just suddenly there. And then it didn't move.
So it did move.
It did end up moving.
So yes. So it was like, I looked up and it was suddenly there. It wasn't, I looked up, it was suddenly there. It stayed in one spot for at least 30 maybe 45 seconds, it did look like it had either come closer or went farther away. And I remember thinking at one point, like, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Can we,
So
like,
you got a positive,
talk?
curious kind of feeling from it?
Well, my aunt, growing up, my aunt would always tell me, like, there's friendly, there's, you want to protect yourself with certain rituals and prayers and whatnot to protect yourself from any, like, darker energies or like like energies that are meaning to do harm.
Yeah, the
so
malignancies.
Right. So you always want to, like, try to interact with something positive and healing. And so anyway, so I'm looking at this and I'm staring at it long enough to know, like, there's not direct flames coming out of it. And that's the only thing I could think is plasma. That is the word that popped into my mind when I saw it, for sure. And then the craziest thing is that, like, I'm looking at it, like I was stuck, like I was fixated on it, and I can do that. I can fixate on something.
Yeah.
And if I really try to, sometimes I do it by accident, but I can, I'm trying to look at this thing to understand, like, what am I looking at? And so, and then all of a sudden, it just moves completely in a horizontal line, so smooth, just to the east. And so there's trees in my backyard, and it's such a direct line. It's like there's no dip. It's just moving. It's just energy.
Like a perfectly straight through space-time line.
Just like, psh. And so
How fast was it going?
It went slow. It was just like moving where I could track it, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't fast enough where it disappeared instantaneously.
Right.
It was just moving. So as it was moving, it moved behind some of the trees, because there's trees in the backyard. So I lost sight of it for a second, and then I saw it again. And then when it went behind the other set of trees, which looked farther away, then it was just gone.
Never showed up again.
No. And I actually had at that point gotten up from the couch. I didn't even know what my mom was saying. And I still had her on speakerphone. So I'm holding my phone and I'm looking out the window, and so I stand up and I go to the window, trying to get more of an angle to see, like, where the fuck did that go? And it was just gone.
Yeah.
It was just gone. But that was like the red, orangey.
Very fiery.
Super, like, hot. Yeah, like fiery, like warm. I mean, definitely something that I will probably remember for forever. I know I'll remember that for forever, as long as I talk about it, and I say that because the strangest part about it was that I was by myself. Yes, I had my mom on the phone, but we talked for but my mom just kind of dropped it. It's just, you saw an orb. Okay. Well, you're good. All right. Well, you saw something.
What you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if there is something controlling that, that's definitely smarter than me. So if anything, it just makes me feel lucky to be able to have finally seen something, and happy to know that they, at least, if that is like a conscious being or a purposeful energy, that I feel that grateful that it's been shown to me, like I could see it, so in a way is just like a reassurance, I guess, because I've had many experiences where, yes, I'll hear a spirit. Yes, my aunt would train me to tap into the spirit world when I was really young, and I would say things that I didn't even remember. I would hear things, I would see things. So, and I've had a lot of these different types of experiences, but this was very different because it was actually like an object in front of me.
Yeah.
Just this light, and it was really cool.
I'm getting ahead of myself a little. I'm going to save most of this for the conversation once you're done with your stories, but do you actually feel like you might have manifested that yourself? You mentioned something about that in the story there. Like, do you feel like it came to you, or that you called it to you?
In that instance, if I'm being totally honest, I definitely felt like it was watching me.
Mm-hmm.
It was showing, it was like
it was sentient.
It was like, I was being shown. It was like, see? Because it was like, it's not the imagination, right? If you're alone in your house and you hear something scrape on the wall, you know for sure what you heard, especially when it's tangible in some way. You know what you're seeing, you know what you're hearing, and you know that nothing is there. But this was very different, I think, because it was visual. So I've had experiences with auditory. Yes, there's been experiences where I feel like I've seen energy, but this was very like, it was, maybe I did manifest it from watching all of those shows, and maybe it was just from years and years of just like, but it was just so weird, the timing of it. And it's just such a random day. I was just so like, just on the phone with my mom, just like whatever. You know, when I moved up here, I kind of wondered like, what am I going to see here? What's going to happen here? Right. But definitely seeing that orb, it was really cool. It was awesome. But what the point that I was getting to before is that like literally 5 minutes later, I was even questioning myself, like, did I really just fucking see that?
That'll happen.
Like, what was that? It was like just such a different, it was just.
That's why, like you said, like telling it helps you remember it. And everyone who has an experience like that has that same reaction. Am I just crazy? At some point, they think, maybe it was just me. But I think that's what makes it important. And I've said this before in the podcast that that's kind of why you need to tell the story. Is you need to like bring it back up in your own mind and see what you really remember of it. And was this really real?
It was definitely real.
Yeah.
It was definitely real. I was not high. I was not drunk. It was like I got home from work and I called my mom.
What were you and your mom talking about?
We were talking about her best friend. And
was it a culmination of something you had been thinking of for a while?
No.
This was just a totally like spur of the moment conversation.
I mean, I call my mom like every other day.
Okay.
You know,
so it's a regular
I talk
thing.
to my mom all the time. Yeah. And I mean, you know, I just felt like the spirit world was just trying to show me. It was just showing me something. And it was definitely an orb of light. It was very bright. It was very cool. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome. I didn't get any bad vibes. It was scary.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely like, that is definitely not anything that I've ever seen before. And it matched the description almost exactly from the guy that I had met at the grocery store. He was, you know, so at the grocery store, sometimes, I don't know if anybody out there has worked at a grocery store, but at a grocery store, you have vendors that come in and they'll do demonstrations. They'll do demos. So they're called like demo people. So he was a demo person and he was demoing dog food. And, you know, working for 8 hours in a grocery store is really fucking boring. Sorry to F-bomb, but it's really boring, you know? I mean, like, there's only so much customer service you can do. And I was working in the vitamin department. So I was working with all these herbs and I was getting really, you know, watching all these shows. And I just got in this conversation with this random dude. He brought in a picture showing me 3 red. He told me, he's like, I've seen an orb. And I was like, what?
And he's got full on pictures of it.
He had taken a picture of it with his cell phone and he even went to the point of printing it out. And what he had seen in SoCal was they were supposed to catch a flight. They were going, him and his wife or girlfriend or whatever, they were supposed to go somewhere. And so he looked up and it was like 3 a.m. and there were 3 orange orbs directly above them. And he felt like it was maybe a craft, but he definitely saw orbs. And so he had his cell phone and he started taking footage of it. And so he had shown me a picture of it. And when I saw that single orb outside the window, I was like, that is it's like that reddish orange that a lot of people describe, that what they've caught on camera on the shows. And I was like, wow, like that really like matches. It's not like a bubble in a picture, right? Where you have refractions of light. It's not a reflection in the window. It's as you're looking at it, you know, for sure you're looking at some kind of energy source, something that is different. And the thing that's crazy is when it shows some element of control, being able to move
right
directly horizontally in like the smoothest.
It's like it's intelligent.
Yeah.
It's sentient. It's a conscious being.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's either, yeah, I mean, is it an angel? Is it a energy? Is it like the beginnings of an orb UFO where it can split?
Well, I'll get into some of the discussion here, but you have more stories for this, but let's at least start this. So yeah, I mean the Scully Muggles, as we would call them here on Monster Lore Tour, the skeptics, the Scully Muggles, the non-believers.
Yeah.
They bring up, the swamp gas thing, and they talk about, ball lightning and electromagnetic disruption in the atmosphere. And
sure.
they even have a thing with plate tectonics because the continental plates are shifting somehow. That makes orbs. That's really more of a Maz thing.
It would make sense though that because it was orangey red, maybe it was a lava bubble popping up.
Yeah, I like your plasmatic word. That was a great term that you coined right there. But let me. I think this is an apt time. I actually got Maz wasn't able to be here for this, but I did get him to send me some stuff on it. So I would like to actually. Since we are not Scully Muggles here, I'm going to quote Maz here for a minute.
Yes.
This is going to cover kind of one aspect of the discussion on this. So this is going to get into Carl Jung and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. You ready?
Oh.
So Jungians, as in Carl Jung, who founded the School of Analytical Psychology, and Buddhists, particularly Tibetan Buddhists, believe that these orbs are unconscious manifestations, is what Jung would call them, or karmic agency is what the Buddhists would call them, but they're basically getting at the same thing. Mm-hmm. So Maz says the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is about the transition of the deceased to the afterlife, claims all apparitions arise from karmic content in mental states. Essentially, their spirit energy lingers after death, assumedly to take care of some unfinished business. Whether in the bardo state, which is they have just died and detached from their body and their spirit hasn't dissipated or moved on yet, or when they're still living but quickly approaching death. So like kind of on either side of death, but close to death on either side of that moment is when they can actually like project, that spirit can project out from the physical form like that. Ultimately, though, any orb is a collection of energy. So the question becomes, is this energy trying to send you a message? It is a worthy pursuit to wonder on. From the Jungian perspective, these can be signs, symbols, or mandalas. You still always got to ask, what did such visions mean to you? Mm-hmm. Because from the Jungian analysis perspective, it's about the symbol and the seeker. The symbol, which would be the orb, if concentrated on, can be cracked. You can figure out what it is, and you are concentrating. Meaning can be discovered from these encounters. These may also be accompanied by other synchronicities, which is why I was asking what you were talking to your mom about and stuff. But how we approach these situations is important because fear breeds monsters, but love breeds openness. But both can lead to certain sorts of answers.
Right.
So the question...
That's funny that you say that, though, because I do remember having a thought of, like, is this a warning?
There you go. What were
And it was just because of the coloration of it, because it was reddish-orange.
And that's really the thing that the Jungian analysis would come down to is what were you thinking about leading up to it? What was in your mind? What was your mental state? And what was your instinct? What was your intuition in the moment as to what it all meant and why the thing was there? That's really how, like... The instinct is to find meaning outside of yourself, but the meaning might actually be fully within yourself as far as these things go.
Well,
it's deep.
I mean, definitely. It is very deep, and definitely it did bring me to certain thoughts about a certain person. And I definitely was like, oh, like, what is this about? And that person who was the first person that I thought about, I actually brought it up with that person. And it turned out that that person had had a similar experience. And so for me, it was a method of connection with another person who had previously experienced also an orange reddish orb. And so I found that really interesting during that time.
So maybe you unconsciously manifested it with somebody else, like it was sort of a co-manifestation.
Well, no, because
a lot of the times it's unconscious too.
Well, no, because prior to this, we had never discussed anything about orbs.
Oh.
But it was like, we were going for a walk and I brought it up. It was like, oh yeah, I've seen one too. And it was also, and before I said the color of it, that person I was with said it was like reddish orange. And I was like, yeah, it was the same color. And we kind of dropped it. Like it wasn't much more of it was like, oh. And so, yeah, and I didn't really bring it up with many other people. I mean, like I told my mom because I was on the phone with her, but it was never like a long conversation or anything. And, just kind of took it for what it was and just kind of, life goes on, right? Like, right. We don't have the capacity anymore unless you're extremely rich or you don't care about money to sit around and philosophize all day on a beach, Right. So it's just kind of like,
so let's get on to the next one here.
Yeah.
Because it's going to raise more points that's going to come into my further discussion I want to do.
Right.
Yes. But you have another orby sort of plasmatic
same
sort
thing.
of thing.
Same thing, different color.
Why don't you set that whole thing up for us and tell us that story?
Yeah, so...
Because this one you had a friend with you.
Yes.
Which I'll take people at their word, especially if they really feel honest.
I mean, she really wants...
It's always better when you have more witnesses.
Yeah,
it's good to have verification.
Yeah, I mean, she really wants to come on the show. My friend Rose, we decided to go camping. And so we go camping. And what's interesting is that she doesn't even remember, but earlier in the day, she had said something to the effect of like, some shit's going to happen tonight. And I was like, no fucking way. I was like, what's going to happen? She's just like, I don't know. I just feel it. And then when I brought it up to her afterwards, she was like, I don't even remember saying that, so she must have been in a meditative state. She was just tapping in.
Yeah, she was channeling something.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
She was getting a download.
Channeling. Growing up, my aunt used to tell me that I'm a channel. Yeah. So,
I might end up agreeing with her. I need to hear the rest of your stories first.
There's a lot. So it's a weirdness part of me that I don't tap into on the regular. When I meet people, it's not something that I have ever discussed. So I'm down to talk about whatever though, cause yeah, that's the way it is. Anyway, so we went camping and we went pretty deep into the forest because she's got a 4Runner and like her car can make it out there.
This is we're not going to get too specific, but this is generally speaking kind of like southwest of Williams, Arizona, right?
It is. We were
somewhere out there in the wilds.
Yeah, we were in Williams and we were in so we were actually after. So there's an old timer that we work with, and he had let us know of a certain road to go out on. And so we went for it and went out on this road. Basically, Bill Williams Mountain is a mountain in Williams where it's south of the 40, and there's a big antenna at the top of it. And so we were directly on the backside of that mountain. So we were south. Okay. So we were south of that mountain, just on the other side. And so she was able to get pretty deep in the forest, and it was freaking awesome. And this happened last summer. So,
okay. This is pretty recent.
So yeah. So the red and orange one was like October, November-ish of 2023. And then you have the change of the year. And then the following summer, which was last summer, which was around May, June, 2024. Okay. So we're out in the forest.
So reasonably close together on your personal timeline too. Like 6 months apart.
Definitely. Okay. I mean, I'm 47 years old. I've never seen an orb of light like that before. Mm-hmm. So to have it happen twice within like a year time frame was
But you had been thinking about them for a few years at this point.
Yeah, because during COVID, I got really into all those shows. And like that was all I watched.
Okay.
So, we go out into the Forest of Williams and we're camping out. She's got her dog with her, and we make a fire. We're hanging out, and I was kind of fucked up. Like, I had definitely edibles and alcohol.
Okay.
And just some fun times,
Yeah.
right? And
No psychedelics, though.
I did take some psychedelics, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to where I'm seeing a cube in the mirror, or everything is altered, because
like a small dose of psilocybin kind of thing.
It was I was just getting a small dose of psilocybin.
That might just make you more open to seeing this stuff,
honestly. Just taking the edge off a little bit. There's no tracks, there's no colors. It's but I'm definitely my sense of reality is a little twisted at this point, but I can still walk and get fire and monitor the fire and stuff like that. It's not like I'm just so fucking wasted, right?
You're within your wits. You know what's going on.
Yeah, to a point. Yeah. So, so we're hanging out, she's playing her guitar and we're just, camping. And, so I look to my right, and at this spot that we had found in the forest, there was a really big old juniper tree. It was beautiful. And this spot that we had found, there was flat space. There were a lot of ponderosa pines and a lot of trees around. But I look to my right, so I start looking west, and the mountain is behind me. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And it's there's this white, just the brightest white light you could ever possibly imagine. Just angelic, beautiful, so white. It's almost like blue violet. It's almost clear. It's almost vibrating or, pulsating. It's just this bright white light. And so I'm thinking damn, is that a fucking star? So to my friend, I'm like, Rose, what the fuck am I looking at? I was like, am I high? And it looks extremely far away at this point. Okay. Definitely bigger than a star, but definitely so far away that you're that's not going to touch me.
It's up out of the atmosphere, but it's huge.
It's out there, right? But it's big.
Yeah.
It's like a soccer ball size compared to a star size, right? So it's it's definitely a little bit bigger than a star, but it's far away.
Yeah.
Right? So she walks over. I love telling this story with her because honestly, we made a pact after this happened. Uh-huh. Sorry, Rose, if you listen to this. Uh-oh. But we were we are never talking about this ever. And then lo and behold, I meet you at the bar and you're I have a paranormal podcast. I'm like, dude, I'm down to talk. I saw a freaking orb. I saw two of them. And it's that went out the window.
It really is good to talk about.
Well,
this is why we only do audio and we call you whatever you want to be called.
I mean, it makes it a lot easier, honestly.
Yeah.
So, so she comes over and she's like, no, that's the reflection of the moon.
Swamp gas.
So what's so funny about it is that, we're both, we've got a couple of beers. The reflection
of the moon.
Her concept was it's the reflection of the moon. That was her, cause that's the reality we were in. I'm like, what am I looking at? And she's like, oh, it's because by the time that she had walked over and by the time that she had said, oh, that's the reflection of the moon, it was drastically closer.
Whoa.
And at that point, there was a whole aura glow where it was there was and it was
close. A corona around the sun.
Yes. It was like a corona. It was like a haze around it. And it had so this large juniper tree was in front of us. So it was almost to the point at that point, because everything is fluid, right? She's walking to me. That thing is doing whatever it wants to do. And so it's but it's significantly closer all of a sudden. And at that point, I'm looking, so this orb of light is to the west and the moon is in the east. And so we're in the forest on the south side of a mountain. So I said to her, what the fuck is that going to reflect off of?
Yeah.
That's not a reflection.
That's not a thing.
So, and the moon was rising. So at this point, the moon was full and the moon was rising in the east as it does. And it was almost, if there was a mirror, you would maybe think that, yes, it was a reflection, but there was nothing for it to reflect off of. At this point, it was behind the juniper tree. So then I said so at this point, we can no longer see a spherical shape, but the juniper tree that is 10 feet in front of us is blocking the view of the physical spherical shape, and all we're seeing is the aura glow of the light of the I like to call it plasma.
Plasma is appropriate.
So I started walking towards it.
Good for you.
And here's the thing.
Good for you.
So I started walking towards it because I was like so depressed. I was like, fucking take me. I was like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
And she had made a comment. She's like, well, no. So I started walking away. So what was so weird about it though, is that in some of those shows that I saw, and because when I was watching those shows, I was getting like, maybe it was my spirit guide or, like my subconscious, whatever you want to call it, guidance, that I was watching these shows as a preparation. And I remember seeing in one of the shows, and it didn't click until after, but as I was walking towards it, there was a definite shadow that I remember walking towards, where this thing was behind the juniper tree and there was a dark shadow that I was walking in. And I remember getting right when I got to the point of the shadow line, I got a message in my mind. Do you want to cross that?
Ooh.
And I was like, ooh. And I kind of thought for a second. And then I remember hearing my friend, get your ass back over here. Like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Walk back. And I was like, wait a second, voice of reason. And it was like, I snapped out of him. Like, I don't want to walk past that into the light on the other side of the juniper tree and have that thing directly in front of me. Cause I really truly at that point didn't know what its capacity was, what it could do, what it couldn't do, the effects. Because if that is a potent, form of energy or light or radiation, at the end of the day, like, I'm human. Would that cause radiation burns? Would it be, even if it's friendly, even if it's kind, even if it is like a spirit form of some kind, that interaction, I mean, who knows, right? So I listened to my friend, thank goodness she was with me, and I turned my back on it. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm turning my back on it, and I was like, fuck it. Maybe it'll happen again. This is the second time now that this has happened within a year, whatever. I'd rather be on the safe side. So I walked back to my friend and I turned around and we're like locked arm in arm. And we're like looking at this plasma glow behind the juniper. And then it pops out. And she's like, well, if it's our time to go, it's our time to go.
When you say pops out, what is that? It pops up above the tree, or
so it So it popped up above the tree, but at this point it looked much smaller, like it had created it had
moved away again.
Yes, so it had created some form of distance. And then
it's playing with space-time a little bit, maybe? Definitely.
And like maybe playing with me or just, or it's uncontrolled. That thought crossed my mind. Like, is this controlled? Is this not controlled? Is this like on purpose? Is this a spirit guide? Is this an angel? Is this an energy? Earlier in the night, she had talked about her grandfather who had passed away. I had talked about my aunt who was like a spiritual healer who had passed away. And, that's the first time I had talked about her in a really long time. And I remember like starting to cry, but pulling back from that and just kind of like enjoying the fire and whatever. And then, but definitely seeing that pop up, and then the dimension of like how close or far it is, it was definitely super farther away. And then we were both watching it, and we were just like, what the fuck? And it's like still, and then it moves south or to the left from our viewpoint, moves to the left, which would be south. And then it dips like a purposeful, because at this point you're looking at something that's so bizarre and so abnormal and so cool and weird and like bright and like different and just so like, what is that? You know, and then you start to kind of wonder, like, is it random? Right? Is it, but then when it moves directly left and then it moves directly in a U shape, like a dip like it's making a movement that looks like on purpose, right?
It's not just blowing in the wind.
Not on purpose, on purpose. But so it's like making this purposeful move, or what looks like a purposeful move. So it dips and then it shoots off to the left and then it just dissipates right in front of our eyes.
Whoa.
It just disappeared into like the ethers. But the disappearing that it did, it was definitely like, it was like a backwards movement. Like it went small, like it went away. It wasn't like it just poof,
it didn't
disappeared.
Just dissipate. It was like it got sucked the other way.
Yes. Kind of yes. That is a really good way of putting it. It's like it got sucked out. It was like, you know, like gone. And so, and then what the trippiest part is that like both of us just kind of stood there and we're like, what the fuck? We didn't really talk about it. We were just kind of tripped out on it. She's like, I'm going to go to bed. Dog never barked.
Wow.
The dog was asleep in the tent. And then like she went to bed. I stayed up for hours. I just kept putting wood on the fire and I just kept like, because honestly, like the spot that we were at looked like a perfect like landing site maybe, because it was like flat. It was definitely super far out, but
an open flat field in the forest.
It was not an open flat field. It was like flat and then it went to a cliff. So it went to a drop off. If you walk down the road a little bit of ways, you could definitely walk further out. You know how the mesas go. But it was very strange. It was very bizarre. We woke up in the morning. We just kind of were like, you know, I made some pine needle tea and, you know, we just kind of hung out, did some paintings. We went for like a really long walk down the road. And as we kept going along the road of the backside of the mountain, it just started getting like uglier and uglier, like in the sense of like, not uglier, but you know how there's certain parts of the forest where they feel really magical and beautiful. And then other parts definitely have a vibe where they're more like, shouldn't probably go in there. Yeah. There's something going on in there. Yeah. So like we started getting into like these thicker.
That's where the ROUSs live, kind of thing.
What's RUSs?
Rodents of unusual size. I don't believe they exist.
I mean,
sorry, that's a Princess Bride thing.
Oh, I love that movie. So we went for a really long walk the next day. Didn't really come up on anything, and then like we left, and we just were like, we're never going to talk about this again. And then we've told this story a few times. The last time that we told this story, out with her and some of her friends for her birthday. And one of her friends told us a story about how she was out camping at some lake and she saw 3 shadows outside of her van. And it was to the point where it had scared her to the point where she actually left. So it's been very interesting.
3 shadows, like 3 humanoid shadows?
3, yeah, like humanoid shadows. 3 shadows.
That could be mirrored men or black stick men.
Maybe.
If it was just shadowy.
I think that she said that she was like in like the Colorado area or something.
Interesting.
But yeah, you know, and we've talked about it a few times after that, but it was such a weird. And it's another one of those things where like, if I didn't have her there with me, I would have been like, did I really see what I just saw? Like, yeah. It's like your sense of dimension, your sense of like perception. It's just so weird. It's a really cool experience.
That's actually a really profound kind of story you have there, honestly.
I like it.
There is a certain point in
scary
in our cultural history. There is definitely a point in which where you tell that story, people are going to say you saw an angel, and they're going to mean it literally.
I mean, honestly, like I've always wanted to see an angel. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to connect with like a spirit being. So like if that was my spirit guide or my angel,
Yeah.
fucking great. And if it was meant for the both of us to see, like it was a combination, maybe it was an opening of a portal to show both of us at the same time. Like, look, you know, like even though like our physical body is not here, you can still make contact with you. We can still, which is something that I definitely believe in because of other experiences that I've had. But definitely when it's that strong and it's visual, that's the thing, right? It's you're seeing like when you're seeing something, it's so powerful. I feel like it's more powerful than auditory or like feeling something. Or or like you think that you see something and then when you look the second time, it's not there. It's very different experience when you're seeing something and you're staring at it and it's not going away and it is not anything that you've ever seen before. And it makes you really feel humble, you know, like that is so much more powerful than anything that I could ever produce. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so bright. It's really cool. I hope everybody can see one at one point because
there's a lot of things I can get into on that. The first thing I want to say is probably a very good idea you didn't walk into that light, because if you go to my Alien Probe series, which I believe episodes 14 and 15, 20 and 21, something like that, there's 4 parts of it. But I go pretty deep into it where the government has like released documents on this. There's been tests done. Like we know so much more than people realize in some ways. But encounters with UFOs in these, next gen type propulsion systems that they're, I believe, retro engineering from stuff they've recovered.
They admitted it on the news. I mean, I watched the shows.
There's a litany of stories from people who have had encounters with these things and were touched by the light of these things, and they become infertile, they get cancer, they get neurological problems. Like there's a lot of weird health stuff that can come from interacting with that stuff. So it might be good your friend called you back out of that light, because if you walked to the other side of that tree, you might have gotten yourself some serious cancer or something.
Maybe. I would like to think that I would have gotten like a radical healing.
Well, it's one of the theories. You know? I honestly don't think that's what your situation was. I think what you saw was a plasma being. I really, which is why I liked that you called it plasmatic in that first orb story.
That's the only word that I could think of, honestly, when I saw it, is like, that's the only word that was popping into my brain is plasma. Like I'm looking at living plasma.
Right.
Like conscious plasma, like movable plasma that can dissipate itself at any time. But it's a shame that we don't have more of that, right? Because that's why I love that show Ancient Aliens, is because they go back in time and they, stuff like that happening, it like altered societies. It like altered like people's thinking, it wasn't something, it was something more like something to learn from, I guess, or something to
almost like a higher level of being, a pure energy being.
Absolutely. Like, and
which is angel.
Well, and the reason,
you know what I mean? It's not wrong. It's not a wrong term, angel. And if you want to use the context of it,
I have no problem using the terminology of angelic or angel. I mean, yes, I was raised with all of this like crystal work and reading work and aura work and chakra work and spiritual work and multi-dimension thinking and all of this stuff. Yes, I was raised with that, but I was also raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Where I went to Catholic school, it was a lot of praying, a lot of spirit work. And, like when I was 20 something, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, this is just what I do, whatever. It's a routine, right? But when my aunt had passed away, so around like, I want to say about 8 years ago, one of my aunts had passed away. And I was living at my parents' house, and so I was regularly going to my grandmother's house to, like give her foot massages. She was on hospice. She had esophageal cancer. And so, she was my aunt. And so, like I would go to the house and I would like watch over her from time to time. And then that was my first experience with, I'm half Mexican. And so like she died in the house. And so there was a day where all of us gathered in the house and her body was there, and feeling that energy was really, really powerful. It was almost as though you could feel that her soul was in that state of like passing, wanting to stay, passing, being able to see what's happening, passing, stay, pass, stay, pass, stay. And then it's like just this gradual release, right? It was very strange. But I remember going to her funeral, and my uncle, who was visiting from the East Coast, he was at my grandmother's house, which one of my other aunts lives in now. And so, Los Angeles has a lot of traffic. So I was like, you know what? I have my own car. I'm just going to hang out in the house. My grandmother had passed in that house, and prior to her passing, I had seen my great-grandfather show up, and he was letting me know that she was fine. He was there to get her. So these types of experiences are very ethereal, but this orb experience was very like, it's like physically in front of me.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the angels. So after my aunt had passed, and the reason why I believe this angelic like way of thinking, I mean, there was a totally different experience. I was at my grandmother's house. The funeral was earlier in the day. I'm hanging out. It's me, my uncle, my aunt. And I have had the tendency in the past to see like colors of energy. So sometimes I'll see black. And usually if I see black, it's like, oh, like what is that death? What is that? It's something. Sometimes I'll see golds. Sometimes I'll see red. And so I had seen this like black energy like pass. We're watching TV in my grandmother's house in Los Angeles. And so this energy, this black energy passes in front of me from the right to the left. And it was a split second of the most, when they talk about in the Bible about like the choir of angels and the trumpets of the angels, for 1 second, it was the thickest, most golden, most angelic horn sound I've ever heard in my whole entire life. It was like this black energy had passed, and the way that I read it of what had happened was that this black energy was peeling back the dimensions to allow me to hear for 1 second the trumpets of the angels. And it was such a thick, it's not, people have an imagination, you can think stuff up in your mind. You can think that something is happening, and, you think you're going crazy. You think that you're hearing things, but it's a very different experience when you have this auditory experience of physically, like you feel like, I felt like I was in the pit of an orchestra of the most magical golden sound you could ever think to produce, so full, so warm, and it was just a split second. And it was like showing me she's fine, she's in heaven. This is a beautiful place. Like the spirit and the world after death, it's there's something there to welcome you, to comfort you. Like it's nothing to be afraid of. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful place. And it's so fast that it's like, well, did that just happen? And me being me, I didn't really say anything, like my uncle's sitting there, my aunt's sitting there. I'm just like, whatever. So it's just like another thing that happens. But I think that my reaction to that is just based off of being raised with all that stuff. But it's just so split second, right? But the orbs are so different. The orb experience, it's just right in front of you, and it's just you're staring at it, and you're looking at it, and it's like that's like a whole other thing. But that was a beautiful experience, and I felt really lucky that that was able to be shown to me, because that happened about 10 years ago. And it was like, that gave me like a lot more faith in the spirit life and the spirit world and the power of like meditation and prayer, and, you know, that there are, you know, like beings outside of ourselves that are in alternate dimensions that are potentially watching after us and, you know, there to take us and stuff. And, you know, I mean, it's just, it was a really bizarre experience, but and I don't even think I've even told much of my family, which would probably be one of the only people, some of the only people that might listen to this, if they even listen to this.
Have you ever tried to purposefully manifest something?
No. And so the thing is that, I have. So when I have
purposefully manifested
when
something?
when I was very young, my aunt, and her healer name was Salome. So, her healing name was Salome. And so Salome I would go and do spirit work with my aunt. I'm 10, 8 years old, 11, 12, 13, 14. And so she would have me manifest. And the only thing that I ever manifested, even at a young age, is just a guy in my life, a man in my life. It's it's the most, but that's all that I would ever manifest. So she would sit, I remember one time she sat me down and she's like, what do you want? What do you want out of your life? Where do you want to go? What do you want to see? What do you want? And I remember being like 8 and I'm like, I just want a boyfriend. I just want a guy.
At
like,
8? Wow.
Yeah. That's all.
I proposed to a girl in kindergarten, so I guess it happens to the best of us.
So she had me write a list. This is the only manifestation that I've ever done consciously. So she had me write a list of attributes that I would want. And I think at this point I was like a teenager. No, maybe it was a couple of years later. I was like 10. Maybe I was in like 4th grade or something. So I wrote a list, and I would go to these like, they would have these like spirit meetings at like different churches and stuff. So like my mom would take me to these like churches in LA. But it was like they were having like spirit meetings where they would do like readings. So like basically, I don't know if any of you out there don't know about this stuff, but basically they meet and they do chakra readings. They do alignments. They read your aura. They tap into your spirit beings, and they basically do like readings, like so energetic readings. And so I remember making a list of all these attributes. And it didn't happen within like a year. It didn't happen within 2 years. And it didn't happen. And then I'm like in college, and it didn't happen. And then I think it happens and it doesn't happen. And I think it happens, it doesn't happen. So that's the only manifestation that I had ever purposefully, consciously tried to do. I think that when I was watching the shows and watching the orbs and kept thinking like, I really want to see one. Why am I? And I would ask myself, why am I so obsessed with watching these shows? And I would just get this message of like, it's just preparing you. It's just, you know, letting you know like what the potential is and like what might be out there, and like just kind of like informing you.
You would actually sense that sort of response to that in yourself.
I mean, yeah. That
it was preparing you for something.
Yeah. So that's how I took it, because that was the only rationalization that I could think of as to why I was obsessed with watching these shows. And so
I don't know if you know this, but you have a very reluctant shaman kind of story. You come from a family of healer women.
Well,
you've been brought up in the culture of it, and you have these experiences, and like hearing the voice of God when one of your loved ones is dying. I mean, I know I'm turning a phrase that's going to get us in some trouble there, maybe, but hearing that horn blast,
angel trumpets.
Like that.
Angel trumpets. And it wasn't like one.
To me, that's a little beyond the normal experience. I have experienced some things that's like kind of next level in my book.
I wasn't expecting it, but it definitely happened.
Yeah.
And
if you put all your stuff together, because it almost does feel like you were starting to manifest these things. Because you made that one little fiery orb, and then 6 months later you're in the woods with your friend, and you got this energy going combined between you, and all of a sudden you have this huge angelic vision of this thing. I mean, one of the theories. I'm more of a.
We weren't expecting it.
Yeah,
we were not expecting it at all.
And often,
It
like
was
it's said in the
super
Tibetan
random.
Book of the Dead, like Ma's quoted, was, a lot of it is unconscious. You're not actually doing it on purpose, but you are doing it.
Well, and I think in a sense you're absolutely right? Because I do remember being a teenager. I'm 47 now. I've probably repeated that like 3 times, but when you're a teenager, you have a lot of thoughts, right? And I remember being a teenager thinking like, yeah, I want to like tap into all that stuff, And
Anytime there's a poltergeist and there's a teenage,
I don't like that shit.
If there's a poltergeist with like a teenage, going through puberty girl involved, they always blame her.
I was about 7.
Because
it wasn't a poltergeist.
They blame her energy and her crazy whacked out hormones and energy things going on that she's actually manifesting that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think sometimes it might be true.
It is true.
You can't make that general of a statement about these things. But
one of the strangest conversations that I had with my mom, who I love dearly, was being 20-something and having like full-on mental breakdowns. I think I'm hearing things. I think I'm seeing things. It's like you have this clash of like energies and dimensions. That is part of your shamanic trials right there.
That is a shamanic journey.
Maybe. So I remember my mom sitting me down at the kitchen table and being like, listen, we need to like talk. And I was like, what's up? Like, I know I'm like, 20 something. It's like, I'm like losing my fucking mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have all this stress of society. You have all of this pressure to get a job. You just feel like you're in, like I was in suburbia. It's just like, there's no outlet, right? It's just everything is so like set, and people get so locked in to things.
Yes.
And it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stress, a lot of like pressure. So basically I remember my mom, my bag just fell down. But basically I remember my mom being like, I think that you've been having trouble lately because you're possessed.
Whoa.
This is the house that I grew up in though. This is normal for me though.
Possessed.
I had an aunt who would do regular shamanic readings on me, and then that's on my white side. So like if I'm just being me, like honestly, that's not even the Mexican side. The Mexican side is like there's nothing. It's like Catholicism and all that. But then I found out, and I'm like 35. Well, no, we have like native roots. Well, nobody talks about it. Mm-hmm. And then, I go to visit one of my tias, and my tia is showing me pictures of my great grandmother, of the quintessential, black hair, native woman, 2 braids, grinding corn, it's like, so I have 2 separate sides, but that was part of my aunt's journey, was that she had realized there is a story being of native connection on the white side too, because I could get into it, but when my mom did the DNA in me, none of that popped up. So but the story is that do you want me to tell the story? Do I have to?
If you want, you don't have to tell anything.
Okay. Yeah, we're just going to focus on orbs. We're not going to talk about all my ancestry.
Yeah, we can save it. I actually still need to get to my favorite theory on all this, actually. I keep talking about sentient plasma beings.
This is something that is brand new to me.
And how it ties into angels, in the lore of angels.
I've always wanted to see an angel. And honestly, if that's what that was, I'm fucking stoked. I
have an article here I'm going to read you. It's a little long. It's longer than I would normally do in an interview episode, but I think it's worth reading. So I'm going to go through it and then we'll talk about it. But basically, in my mind, it's almost... It could very potentially be an explanation for your story from the Williams Woods.
Okay.
But this is from a website titled, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Ohoake Books. Sounds Hawaiian. Does that sound
Hawaiian.
Right to you? Ohoake?
Hey, when you guys did that one on the little people, I remember tripping out on that. I had Googled that stuff when I was out there. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
The Pukwudgies? That one?
I can't remember the name.
I can't remember what we talked about when. Sometimes we've gone through so much on this podcast. But this is from ohoakebooks.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. That the headline reads, Plasma, Everything is Alive, The Science of Consciousness. This is from May 4th, 2023. And here we go. Not long ago, I watched a video where the astrologer Pam Gregory interviewed Professor Robert Temple about his book, A New Science of Heaven. The book is about plasma, its discovery, what it is, and then goes on to explain how not only is the entire visible universe made up of it, he denotes that it is most importantly sentient and conscious. Professor Temple says that plasma is made of particles, positively charged protons, negatively charged electrons, and ions, which he says are often termed incomplete atoms, since they have electrons stripped off them, making them positively charged. Plasma exists in gaseous, liquid, and solid forms. For me, this is the writer, for me the most startling part of the interview in the book is his interest in cold plasmas, which exist in space.
Oh, yeah.
Which took his research into the rediscovery of the Kordylewski clouds on October 25th, 2018, which was confirmed by the Royal Astronomical Society. These were believed to be dust clouds that orbit the Earth, named after the Polish astronomer Kazimierz Kordylewski in 1961. But now we know they are plasma clouds. These enormous clouds of plasma that orbit our planet are, according to Professor Temple, vastly intelligent life forms. So a side note from the article here, per wiki, the Kordylewski clouds are at the L4 and L5 Lagrange points, specifically. Lagrange points are, quote, positions in space where the gravitational forces of two large bodies, like the Earth and the Sun, balance with the centripetal force needed for a smaller object to maintain a stable position relative to them. Simply put, it's a place where if you put something there, it will stay there in the same place in relation to the Earth as the Earth moves around. We put the James Webb Space Telescope at one of these Lagrange points, so it's at a permanent distance from the Earth. At that same point relative to the Earth all the time, because it's at one of these Lagrange points. There are 5 Lagrange points, and two of them
around the Earth?
Around the Earth. There are 5 points where the gravity balances like that in the Earth-Sun system. And at 2 of these points exists these plasma clouds, okay? Now I'm going to get...
Permanently?
Permanently.
They are like always
They are
there?
just there.
Huh.
And as far as we can tell, they've always been there.
Huh.
So let's get back to this article. Professor Temple's friend and colleague David Bohm, the American quantum physicist and a pioneer in the field of plasma physics, made some of the most profound statements and some of the most intriguing discoveries about the nature of plasma. Marina Jones, who wrote an article on Bohm for Futurism, said, quote, while working on plasmas at the Lawrence Radiation Laboratory in California in 1940s, Bohm noticed that once electrons were in a plasma, which has a high density of electrons and positive ions, they stopped behaving like individual particles and started behaving like a unit. It seemed as if the sea of electrons was somehow alive. He thought then that there was a deeper cause behind the random nature of the subatomic world. Bohm came up with an idea of the quantum potential to suggest that subatomic particles are highly complex dynamic entities that follow a precise path that is determined by subtle forces. In his view, the quantum potential pervades all space and guides the motion of particles by providing information about the whole environment. Like, we're talking a universal consciousness right now. All things share a consciousness is basically what that concept right there boils down to.
But the consciousness is plasma?
The universe itself is made out of plasma, and the plasma is conscious, is what we're getting at.
Why have all cultures come up with some kind of soul theory?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I got a little more to read and then we'll talk. For Bohm, all of reality was a dynamic process in which all manifest objects are in a state of constant flux. By introducing the concepts of implicate order and explicate order, Bohm argued that the empty space in the universe contained the whole of everything. It is the source of explicate order, the order of the physical world, and is a realm of pure information. From it, the physical, observable phenomena unfold and again return to it, much like what you saw with that thing coming down and going back.
Yeah, I'm
going to read that again. From it, the physical, observable phenomena unfold and again return to it. I feel like that's what you saw in the woods.
Well, that I definitely remember thinking to myself, like, 1 second ago it looked so far away, and then now it's being hidden by that juniper tree, so it's literally that close. Like, what? And then it pops up, and it's like far away again. Like, I'm not gonna hurt you. Like, it's cool.
Yeah. So this unfolding of the explicit order from the subtle realm of the implicate order, and the movement of all matter in terms of enfolding and unfolding, is what Bohm called the hollow movement. Like a hologram, we live in a illusory universe at that point. It's the consciousness is creating the physical that we observe. Bohm believed that although the universe appears to be solid, it is in essence a magnificent hologram. But here's where we're going to get to the real point of this whole thing. Professor Temple told Pam, our true selves are beings of bioplasma beings that incarnate into physical bodies. We are energetic beings that incarnate into these physical forms.
I mean, that's the concept, right? Isn't that like Hinduism, Buddhism, it's reincarnation?
Yeah.
That's the concept of reincarnation.
Into the Vedic more than anything, I believe. But it gets into that at the end of this too. So, bioplasma beings that incarnate into physical bodies, and that the brain is where the mind, which is part of the bioplasma being, inhabits to operate the biology of the body. So the brain is separate from the mind. The mind sends the signals to the brain from the plasma, basically. He goes on to say that all plasma beings who are alive in the universe are conscious and intelligent, like our sun and the stars.
Yeah, like they know what they're doing. Like the souls are like...
This is a cool story about the sun. This concept is picked up on by Dr. Joseph P. Farrell, who in an interview with dark journalist Daniel Litzt tells how in May of 1999, the solar wind stopped for 2 days. This shouldn't happen. According to mainstream science...
Y2K.
Well,
I really thought it was going to end. I really thought that the world was going to end. I was like a tripped out 21-year-old.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's
Y2K,
funny.
it's going to happen.
But according to mainstream science, the sun is a gigantic chained hydrogen bomb. Dr. Farrell says that its behavior is not conducive to such a theory, as the sun continued to blaze away in those 2 days. And he explains that Nikola Tesla espoused that it is the segmentation of the local configuration of space-time where the reaction is taking place, and it is the local system parameters that create the energetic output, which means it's much more a purposeful quantum thing than just a chain reaction burning. It's a very deep concept that I'm not going to be able to explain right now.
That the sun... So are they saying that the sun is like the ultimate consciousness?
I'll keep reading. The sun, as Professor Temple said, is a living entity, super intelligent, and the idea of the chained hydrogen reactions that produce the solar winds are a process of its existence, not a necessity. That's why it can turn it off if it wants to. If it wants to. See? Dr. Farrell denotes a story about David Bohm inserting electrical probes into plasma during the Manhattan Project, only to discover that plasma created a sheath around itself. This is important. A membrane protects itself like a living entity, a living system, like a cell wall. He relates about plasma filaments of the universe resemble brain neurons. Bohm's living holographic universe. The ancient view of the universe is a living organism rather than a mechanism, has even more basis in science, Dr. Farrell muses. The legacy cultures that spring up in India, Egypt, and Mesopotamia all have their views of the nature of the universe, but perhaps the most detailed knowledge of consciousness rises out of the Vedic sciences. This is what I was just talking about. On the website Science and Non-Duality, a republished article from the paper titled On the Science of Consciousness in Ancient India, an Indian Journal of History of Science, Professor Temple's realization that a bioplasma being used the brain of the human biology to operate the body is aptly conveyed in the following paragraph. The person is the conscious self who is taken to be a reservoir of infinite potential. But the actual capabilities of the animal are determined by the neural hardware of its brain. This hardware may be compared to a mirror. The hardware of the human brain represents the clearest structure to focus the self, which is why humans can perform in ways that other animals cannot. Within the framework of this theory, humans and other animals are persons, and their apparent behavioral distinctions arise from the increased cloudedness of the neural hardware of the lower animals. Self-awareness is an emergent phenomenon, which is grounded on the self and the associations stored in the brain. The brain is the organ that the bioplasma mind uses to operate the body so it can become aware of itself. It is also the neural microcosm that resembles the macrocosm of the holographic living entity that is the universe. Austrian-born Nobel Prize-winning Erwin Schrödinger, the guy with the cat, Schrödinger's cat.
I don't know him.
We can talk about that later. According to biographer Walter Moore, had a clear understanding of Vedanta, one of the 6 systems of Indian philosophy. The unity and continuity of Vedanta are reflected in the unity and continuity of wave mechanics, quantum physics. In 1925, the worldview of physics was a model of a great machine composed of separable interacting material parts. During the next few years, Schrödinger and Heisenberg and their followers created a universe based on superimposed inseparable waves of probability amplitudes.
I mean, I like that.
We talk about this on the podcast more than we probably should. This new view would be entirely consistent with the Vedantic concept of all is one. A visible universe, our visible universe, is 99% plasma, and it all shares a consciousness. It is one thing.
Have you ever seen an orb?
I have not.
Okay.
Maz and I missed it by a night. There was a camping trip at the Superstition Mountains. We've talked about this before too. Some of our buddies went down the night before we were able to go, and that night they saw full-on orb float right through the campsite, but Maz and I both missed it.
With what you had read, the thing is that those orbs of light they're so bright and they have so much energy. I don't see how something like that could manifest in a body. Like it would blow up a body.
Well, think about.
It seems like it's too powerful. Like it's too potent.
It's just sending signals. Our brain is like
Definitely.
a radio receiver, and they're just sending signals. They're not full on like blasting the plasma into our brains. They're just sending the frequencies. They're sending the signals.
I could see that, because like definitely when I saw them, that thought crossed my mind as like, that is so much more than like that is so much more than just energy or just light. It's so much more.
And the fact that you started seeing it and it seemed way out there with the stars.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it was way down right behind the tree that was 10 feet in front of you. And then all of a sudden it withdrew from it, and then all of a sudden it was back out in the stars. Gone.
And everything was so still. It was so quiet. It was so quiet.
Yeah.
There wasn't any sound.
So stick with me here, because I have a very deep theory that is brand new to this conversation that I want to try to lay on you.
Okay.
What if, I love starting with what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
What if, so these plasma clouds at the Lagrange points that have been tracking Earth for as long as Earth's been here, as far as we can tell.
They probably sound like some kind of a level of protection.
What if they are the plasma that is sending us our signals? Our true selves actually exist in that plasma cloud. And when that thing reached down to you like that, I mean, it's out there. This is my Ahu Guano theory of the week.
Neuron?
This is an Ahu Guano theory of the week.
Oh no, here it comes. Quick, to the batshit signal.
I don't usually do segments in interviews, but I'm dropping that in here because it's nuts. But I love it. You ready?
Okay.
I think you may have had some sort of contact with your true self. The you that is actually eternally you, that is that part of the plasma that feeds us all what we would call our thoughts and maybe our souls and everything else from these angels, quote unquote. The thing that is sending you the signals that makes you you in this physical form reached out to you in a way, potentially.
Like I'm a cell in the grand scheme of things.
Well, we all are.
And like the plasma cloud is the brain. And like what I saw was the end of a neuron.
The plasma cloud contains the essence of your true eternal self, right? Your energetic self. And it's what feeds your brain in this physical form to make you you in this experiential form. We are the universe experiencing itself.
I felt like it was like
is
looking
what it
at
comes
me,
down
though.
to. Well, I feel like maybe
like I felt like it was watching me.
Right, but I almost feel like it was a mirror in a way of it, the thing.
That's something that I never even thought about before. But I mean,
it's just one theory. It's the deepest theory.
Dude, if I'm like
mind.
this plasmatic ball of white light, I'm like, hell yeah.
Well, I think that's what I think that's where we go back to.
That
when
would
we
be
die.
cool.
And if this is the case, if those clouds are actually the thing making us who we are in this existence, and that is the place we go back to when we die and come from when we're born, I mean, you're almost talking about science just found heaven, if that holds true. Right?
Is that so? Like,
I'm
if
gonna
there's
start
some
trouble
kind
again,
of magnetism, so if there's some kind of energy, if it's energy, and if the soul is some kind of energy, and as the soul leaves the body, or you have these fragmented energies, I could definitely see how if you have this energetic point in like these plasmatic clouds, where at certain points there can be some kind of connection where they can show through. But I mean, that's taking it to this whole other level though of like consciousness,
it's next level
right?
stuff,
Because
yeah.
like, how can it know to just move? Or is that like, that's the thing that I was wondering is that as I was watching it, both of them move to the left. So it's like, if that's a form of consciousness, like conscious energy, like conscious light, like being like 15, 16 years old. And I remember staring at the stars and I used to always think that I was looking out, that light was being shown. There were holes, and that was the light from beyond that I was being able to see, like come through the stars of like alternate, worlds. And so I used to think sometimes that living on Earth is like living on a tennis ball. Like I'm on this tiny little tennis ball in the middle of like nowhere. And then like the stars at night is like I'm seeing points of light from other places that are, brighter and I don't know, maybe have more magic or more light, more capacity to do more things and, anti-gravity and I don't know.
We're working on that. I've talked about that on the podcast too.
I mean, have you ever tripped out like that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Where you're
it's part
like,
of why I'm here.
You're stony baloney and you're like looking at the stars and you're like, are those poke holes? Like, am I seeing outside of the potential of what's out there?
That was what they really thought back in the old world. They thought that,
So are you saying I have like a cave person mind?
Well, no, it's, you actually have a very philosophical mind is what you have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And you might be a shaman.
Well,
just so you know.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't have children, so I feel like if I had to go and do spirit work, maybe I could. But that's like my cousin works in the spirit world. She does physical work, but she definitely, and she's the daughter of my aunt, and she definitely does spirit work where she does do readings for people. So I do think that it is something that I could probably explore.
I think that's part of it is when you are not only brought up in the culture of it, but you come from a line of people who are into it. Like I do think there's a little bit of it in the blood.
Not necessarily. So like her parents were tailors and they came over from Lithuania. And then on the other side of the family, you have native and then Spaniards. So in the Spaniards came over. And one of the stories that I heard from my grandmother when she was like in her 70s and she was in the hospital one day was that there were stories passed down to her, something to the effect of like when the Spaniards came over, they basically lit everything on fire.
Right.
So on that line of the family, though, I don't really know very much. They used to run a newspaper in Mexico, and there wasn't a lot of necessarily spirit work. I did have an uncle, though. He passed away now, who did go into the priesthood.
Oh,
So
okay.
he was doing spirit work.
That's definitely a form of it.
Yeah, for sure. But that was all Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
So, because, I mean, what are you going to do?
Well,
if
you go
you're
with
like,
what you know.
I mean, if you're hanging out in Mexico and then all of a sudden all these people roll up in a boat and they have all these knives, they light everything on fire. What the fuck else are you going to do? You're just going to be like, all right, I guess I'm just going to go with this for now. Shit. What the fuck? And it's like, it just completely alters generations and generations, which is fine. I mean, like, it's fine. When my grandmother passed away, there was a piece of Bible paper on like my rainy balcony, and like that made me be like, whoa, and I mean, that's
See,
what
right
happened.
there,
Like,
too. You got a
like
thing.
Santo,
thing.
like, what was that story about the Virgin Mary on the robe? Juan Diego.
I'm not familiar.
It's a story that I heard from a dude in California. Something about, and my dad knew the story, but it's something about like, that's the whole thing that like, changed a lot of people in Mexico, their minds about stuff, is that like shit happened and they're just like, I can't deny it, like I'm seeing this spirit of like this Holy Mary. I'm seeing this, these roses popping up. I'm seeing this shit happen, or I don't mean to say shit, when I'm talking about like spirit stuff, but
we got you.
They, people are seeing these things, so it's altering their reality of how they're practicing and what they're believing in. And definitely I've experienced some of that stuff, so it's undeniable. But I mean, really at the end of it, people have always had some kind of a spirit connection, right? It's just taking it to a whole other level. If you're talking about plasmatic clouds on either end, especially if they're on the north-south poles, or especially if they're located in specific spots where like it could play into like the magnetism.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, any person, I don't care who you are, but any person who ignores like the research that people have done and all the other galaxies and worlds and rocks and combinations of things that are out there. I mean, and all the stuff that has happened over the years, and it's not a new concept, I mean, I think that that's what a lot of the people are, with the shows and stuff, is that they're trying to hammer away.
It's as old as concepts get, actually.
And what are you going to make up when you're like cruising around and there's no bills to pay and your only concern is where's my food?
And your entertainment is the stars in the sky at
exactly, night. Right? So the people, and then especially on those shows when they show some of the buildings and the structures, how is it they can't even replicate that? Yeah. So, back
especially,
then.
what is it? I think it's South America, Central, or I think it's South America, where the rocks are like fused together.
Yes. The Peruvians.
Like, how the hell did they do that?
My grandma one time, I remember I was at my grandma's house one time and she was like, mi gente vimos a Peru. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was watching these shows and I saw these Peruvian things. I'm like, oh, was that like, do I have some kind of connection there?
That goes back to there have been advanced civilizations before us on this world.
I mean,
we don't know our own history.
No doubt. Who the fuck? Honestly, if you look at the Peruvian culture and you look at some of the structures, Machu Picchu,
millions of people living in their cities and stuff. Like,
who and why are you gonna go and be like, I'm gonna create a city on the side of a sheer mountain and I'm gonna build out an entire tunneling system or filtration water system so that I can thrive up here.
And I'm going to use stones that are perfectly rectangular. And weigh 50 tons and come from thousands of miles away.
Yeah. It sounds like a great idea. And it's, what is it? What year is it? 1500?
Oh, we're talking
1200?
12,000 BC.
12,000. Oh,
the Sphinx is older than we think. And they say the Sphinx is 14,000 years old now. It's way old. It's way older than that. It's even way older than that. It was old for those people.
I love that stuff so much.
But anywho, amazing stories, honestly, Vile. Amazing.
I hope someday that you get to see an orb. Really, it is fascinating.
Yeah, you never know.
It is truly
I
fascinating.
feel like if I hang out with you enough, I might, because I'm pretty sure you're a manifester.
I don't know if I'm an orb magnet. I'd like to be, though. I was
would
kind of
honestly, with everything you just told me, and I know you have more stories that we haven't got to yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you really
Not a lot,
wanted,
just a couple.
if you really focused on manifesting things, I think you would be much better at it than most people. I really do.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, like, that's, that's the thing, is that I kind of wonder, and I was just thinking about this last night, like, is it manifestable? Is it? And I think that I had asked you at the bar, like, what do you know about the orbs? And I specifically had asked you, like, do they attach to you? Like, because, and I think that the only reason why I thought that is because,
well, you might be manifesting them, so it's really kind of your own thought form. So they can, if that is the case. It's not
a thought, dude. Honestly, like, I've had visions. I've had visions of things. I've heard things that aren't there. This is like completely physical. Like, you cannot deny, like, when you see one, it's physically truly there. I think that that's like an extremely egotistical thing, though, to like get to the point where you're like, I'm going to manifest these energetic beings. I think that it's impossible as a human being, because that is so beyond myself and my capacity, or any human being's capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like once you see something like that, like, to even think to have the power to even try to purposefully manifest something like that, that takes a lot of nerve, in my opinion. That takes a lot of nerve to try to conjure something like that, and I've never been that type of person. So I don't know if that's like how I was raised, or just my own thinking, is that it's just like, if that's something that happens and that's something that I see, cool. But I'm not trying to, I would actually be kind of afraid to purposefully manifest it. Sure. And I'm kind of surprised that I even saw the two that I did. The thought has crossed my mind, though, because there was a show where there was a guy where they always show up in his backyard. And it was like he had gotten to that, whatever that vibration is, whatever that frame of mind is, where he's tapping into that like all the time, where they're just showing up. Yeah. That would be so fucking rad. I mean, that would be amazing, right?
It's a very tulpa. Have you ever heard tulpamancy?
It seems kind of dangerous, though.
It's again a very Buddhist sort of thing, but it's manifesting thought forms to that point. Like, and it's just like you say, the guy, like, you put your energies into it and you really focus on it, and like it takes work and dedication. But ultimately, you can be like that guy where you can just be like, hey, orbs, come here. And you know what I mean?
I mean, who knows? But the two experiences that I have, it wasn't like I was purposefully trying to see these things. It wasn't like I was purposefully like when I would watch the shows, I would think to myself, dang, I really want to see one. That'd be really cool.
Right.
But like, it's never anything that like I really, like, it's not, I don't feel like I made it happen. I feel like it allowed me to see it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
there's a very yin yang sort of feel to that whole thing too, though. Like, what if it is a piece of your true self, then it's you either way, but it's a very cyclical. Man, I'm going to have to meditate on that one for a minute myself. I just blew my own mind.
So it's like I'm tapping into my true self.
Well, it's kind of, yeah. Like your
I really
experiential,
didn't feel that, though.
Your physical, and oh yeah, I guess I never really did get to that because I got so caught up in the theories. What was your actual, like, the first time I asked you Maz's question about what was your mind state and what did you feel from it? Did you feel like it was reaching out to you, or was it threatening you, or what did you feel from that angel in the woods?
The red orange one, it made me feel like it was just showing me like, hey, I'm here. I did have a very strange experience when I moved first to Flagstaff. I don't know if I want to talk about it or not, because the very few people that I do know, who I see face to face, who I know who might listen to this, I'm kind of afraid for how they're going to think about my mental state if I tell this story.
Well, I tell you what, I'll tell you what, Violet. we've been going for like an hour and a half already.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I know you have more stories, but I know Rose wants to come on as well. So why don't we save any other actual stories and we'll do another episode with you and Rose later on. How's that sound?
That sounds good. That sounds good. And then we can dive into all kinds
and
of
you
other
can decide
stuff.
what other stuff you want to talk about. And, you know, the two of you can, maybe we can rehash a little from her perspective on the plasma being thing. And then we can get into all your other stories. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds fine.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up then because this definitely got a little away from it. It's such great stories. It's hard to stop talking about it. Well, let's leave it at that.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
A little bit of a cliffhanger almost even right now.
It's fine.
And at some point over the summer, we'll get you both back in here.
I would
and
love
we can
to have
do a
her.
part 2.
Yeah, I would love, because honestly, being able to hear her perspective of it too, and like her take on it, and just being able, I think, definitely going from that stage of like, I wonder if I could see one, and then actually seeing one, and then especially having a friend there or somebody else there.
Yeah, the verification
to witness
is
it.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really, that would be super fun.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Well, let's leave it at that then. Thanks for coming in. And
thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
There you go, everybody. Our interview with Violet. We will bring you part 2 of this interview just as soon as we can get it all done up. And we will be back in the fall with more MLT-style deep dive episodes into the lore of all things monstrous. And we'll pop back in with any other interviews that come our way in the meantime. Until then, to all our fellow paranerdalists out there, have a wonderful summer. Monster Lore Tour Podcast.
It's all filled with stars.
They should have sent a poet.